Hey man, you want to watch the countdown to 1970 New Year's?
Yeah, turn on APUSH News.
You mean the one with news anchors Michael, Shu, Parsa, and Hunter?
Yeah, that one.
That one sucks. Put on Channel 4.
Okay, Channel 4.
Welcome to Channel 4 News. I'm your anchor, Robert Oxley.
And I'm Brock Carey.
And as the clock ticks by December 31st, 1969, we'd like to go over the past decade. Political strife, the space race, war in Vietnam, popular culture, amongst other things.
And let's start with 1960 and Kennedy. Roll the tape, Jim.
It's been a great honor being elected the president of this great nation, and I shall lead this great nation against the struggles of the forces of communism. And I promise, by the end of the decade, to put a man on the moon. That man will be an American.
A new, strong, and able leader took us through the new challenges of the new decade.
Then, in the following year of 1961, President Kennedy established the Peace Corps, a worldwide organization devoted to the aid of impoverished peoples everywhere.
Completely unprecedented at the time.
And then he followed this amazing success with an amazing blunder in April.
Who could forget that? In the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, Cuban exiles and American CIA agents stormed the Bay of Pigs. However, it was a complete disaster due to lack of air support from the Americans.
Ha ha! Roll the tape, Jim!
Oh, hey man, where the planes at?
Hey man, the planes be here soon, Holmes. Come on, man.
You're like how soon, man? 'Cause we've been waiting here for like a couple hours. I think like half of our army is like.
Yeah, they be here
Like,
soon.
oh,
man.
how do you say gone in Spanish?
Those rebels were then captured and killed.
I apologize. Castro then met with Khrushchev, pleading for him to help defend Cuba against the United States.
Then, later in June, Kennedy met with Khrushchev again to discuss Laos, the Bay of Pigs, and Berlin. Comrade, Berlin cannot be unified. Germany cannot be unified unless we want to risk another world war. At the Vienna summit, plans were drawn for the Berlin Wall to be built, which would separate East and West Berlin.
On to 62. In October, Soviet missile silos were found in Cuba, primed and aimed at American soil.
Then, the naval blockade that would save the world. Soviet warships carrying nukes were then forced to retreat from Cuba. Roll the tape! And what a beautiful day in history that was. This was followed by President Kennedy forming a nuclear hotline with the Soviets, allowing them to communicate in case there was any potential threat of nuclear war.
Soviet nukes were dismantled in Cuba, American nukes in Turkey. Fair is fair. But in 63, civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr. delivered a heartfelt and amazing and powerful speech at his March on Washington.
His I Have a Dream speech, a real turning point in civil rights history.
Roll the tape, Jim!
I have a dream that one day my children will be judged by their character and not by the color of their skin.
Then, terrible day in November. I'm sorry.
And then that terrible day in November when we lost our beloved president, John F. Kennedy, in Dallas, Texas. Roll the tape, Jim.
Bang! Yeah! Yeah! Texas!
But then, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson took his place as president aboard the Air Force One. I'm swearing you in now, Mr. President. Put your hand on the deathly hallows and recite after me.
Well, I for one thought LBJ was a much more superior president.
No one was asking you, Jim!
There's a reason we keep you behind the camera, Jim. Going back to what's important, the assailant, Lee Harvey Oswald, is believed to have committed the shooting with a gun.
Then, in 1964, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed, making public segregation illegal and racism outlawed.
It's a shame.
I know.
Can't say nothing about it either.
Exactly.
It's a disgrace in the name of God.
Then, in August, the USS Maddox was purportedly attacked by the North Vietnamese in the Gulf of Tonkin, Vietnam. Then, the following year, in 1965, Lyndon B. Johnson proclaimed that he would turn America into a great society in which there would be no poverty and no racism.
But the struggle for civil rights continued. Malcolm X was assassinated in February for leaving the Nation of Islam.
Then, later, next month, the first combat troops were deployed to Vietnam to fight northern Vietnamese forces.
In 1965, LBJ signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965, assuring the African American vote. Moving on to 1966, August of that year, John Lennon apologized for his bigger than Jesus quote, and that happened as Beatlemania and other British bands was getting popularity in the United States.
This so-called British invasion also included bands such as the Rolling Stones and the Kinks. Needless to say, British records were selling faster than hotcakes.
In 1967, our station switched to Technicolor, bringing color picture and televisions to families across the nation.
Then, later that April, Thurgood Marshall was sworn in as the first African-American Supreme Court Justice, and he would later go on to assure that state-sponsored racism would be brought to an end.
Such as the case with Loving v. Virginia, where the Supreme Court decided all laws making interracial marriage illegal were unconstitutional. 68 was a year to remember, starting with the Tet Offensive, a massive offensive against the southern Vietnamese by the North Vietnamese, attacking cities such as Hue and the U.S. Embassy.
We lost a decent amount of good men.
How goes the war, proud defender of America?
Well, it kind of sucks in country because we don't have like toilet paper and stuff here. But I mean, it's badass. You're a soldier, you get to shoot people, and I'm having fun.
So how fares the war against the Viet Cong?
Well, we pushed them back a couple of days ago. Haven't seen them since. It's been really quiet, you know, further down the trail. I went to this like Vietnamese person's house. They gave me some green stuff and I ate it. Not feeling real good after that.
Kong in the tree line!
Alright, so we capped them. Alright, so now to make sure no more of them come, we're gonna burn down the immediate area here. Just, you know, like the entire forest part, kinda.
Too many assassinations.
Yeah, isn't that right, Bob? Robert Kennedy and MLK, who was assassinated by James Earl Ray in April.
We met with a member of the Black Panthers to see their view on the assassination of MLK.
Sir, what do you think of the assassination of civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr.?
Good riddance to that coward. You know how I deal with racism? I grab my homie, I grab my gun, and I shoot up stuff. I don't deal with this having a dream stuff. I deal in reality. And you know how we deal with reality? With an AK-47.
Space became a big topic as well. Apollo 8 was the first manned spacecraft to orbit the moon, and Star Trek began to grow in popularity. It was also the first television show to feature an interracial kiss.
Ironically, this was also the time Nixon was elected, when at a time liberal ideas were so widespread amongst the youth, making him the first Republican president since Eisenhower.
Speaking of which, nowadays our youth have a culture based more on sex, drugs, and rock music, and they are more liberal than ever.
Earlier, we interviewed a group of shady youths of their opinion on this matter. So, what are you young gentlemen up to?
Man, we're heading to Woodstock. It's gonna be mad groovy. Hendrix, Janis Joplin, other guys.
Alright, let's see. Hippies, what do you think of the American people's idea that you're deteriorating American culture and your abuse of drugs?
I would say we're more drug enthusiasts, man.
Alright. What do you think of Nixon's, what do you think of his election?
Well, it's not real groovy, man. He's a fascist.
And what would be your opinion on our involvement in Vietnam?
It's like free love and peace, man. Like, why are we even there? It's not love, man.
Where am I?
And in a moment, we'll see an interview with Mr. Smith, an older gentleman who is a member of the other party, and he believes that his views are shared with most Americans, a silent majority.
Silent majority. Not everyone's out on the streets protesting. My motto's not sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Yes, I voted for Nixon because I want America to be normal again.
Finally, Apollo 11, the event of the decade. 5 months ago, we finally achieved Kennedy's dream of putting an American on the moon. Cut to the clip!
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is it, folks. We're in the final seconds of the 60s.
5,
4,
3,
1. Welcome to the far out 70s, man.
Booyah!